What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday. Time to check out some new releases that are coming out this Friday, November 21st. A little over 400 albums are coming out this week. I got 14 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, a little over 400 albums are coming out this week, but I'm only going to talk about 14 on the show today. So if there's something you're looking forward to that I don't have on here, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing. And like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, they should be available online. I'll put links down below in the comment section for them. You can also always go over to the Vinyl Den store on Amazon. All the new releases are on there, pre-orders, there's deals on records, all sorts of cool stuff. Check out. I know a lot of people are really excited for the first release on my list this week. This is the Beatles Anthology. So this came out back in 1995 and 1996. Well, I guess kind of. Volumes 1 through 3 came out in 95 and 96. And there's also the new Anthology Volume 4 that's being included in this box set. But it's not going to be cheap. There's 12 albums in this box set. It's going to run you about $375. But if you already have the first 3 volumes of it and you just want to get Anthology 4, it's going to run you about $70. It's all newly remastered by Giles Martin. I'm sure this thing's going to sound absolutely fantastic. Like I said, long overdue to get reissued. I don't think any of these things have been available on vinyl since the early 2000s. Of course, with it being on 12 EPs, there's a lot of content in this box set. There's almost 200 tracks in here. But you've got studio outtakes, there's live performances, broadcast performances, demos, alternate mixes. You know, it really shows the progression of the band from its infancy all the way up through their latest single, Now and Then, which came out, 2023, I think, when that was released. And each 3 LP volume comes in a really nice triple gatefold. And volumes 1 through 3, they went back and restored all the original artwork on those volumes. I kind of hesitated to pre-order this initially just because it is expensive. You know, was it $375 for the big box set? But this has been something I'd been wanting to see get reissued for a very long time. Yeah, so, yeah, like I said, very expensive, especially since there's a lot of other stuff coming out, especially this week that I've got already on pre-order. And it looked like at first they were just going to release just everything as this one big box set. And then I think they decided, I think it was like a week or two after the box set went up for pre-order, that they were going to do the Volume 4, Anthology 4, as a separate release, which is really nice because I know there's a lot of people out there that have the first 3 volumes already and didn't want to drop the, plus shipping and taxes, almost $400 for the big box set when they already have the first 3. So it was nice that they did offer Volume 4, separately from the box set. Like I said, I've already got on pre-order. It's definitely one I'm looking forward to getting my hands on this week. Then you've also got Aerosmith and Yungblud one more time coming out. So this is a new 5-track EP. It's going to be about $26. This is the first new music from Aerosmith in over a decade. I know Steven Tyler had some vocal cord issues over the last couple of years, which is why I think they had to cancel the remaining part of their farewell tour. There's 4 new songs on this EP, including My Own Angel, which has already been released as a single, which is already a big hit. It's hit number 1 on several of the singles charts here in the US. My big question going into this EP was how Steven Tyler was going to sound. How much of the digital effects they're going to have to use and manipulate his vocals because of that vocal cord injury from a couple years ago. But like I said, My Own Angel I thought was a really good song. It gave me a lot of hope for this EP that's coming out. There's also a reimagined version of Back in the Saddle on there also, which is one of my favorite tracks from Aerosmith. So it's another one I got on pre-order. It's another one I can't wait to check out this week. So I wanted to cut in here real quick and say that I forgot about something. Completely missed a release. I realized it once I started editing the video for this week. And this happens sometimes, and what I'll do is I'll just add it on to my extended list down in the comments section. But this is a big release, and it's something I was looking forward to. I did a video on the channel a while back about it. This is Smashing Pumpkins' Melancholy and Infinite Sadness. Released back in 1995. It was their 3rd studio album. 30th anniversary super deluxe edition. 6 LP box set. It's going to run you about $345. I think the reason I missed it is because my local record stores aren't advertising this box set, because I think it's only available through a couple of online retailers. Because once I looked at my local record stores, they've got just the CD box set available online. That's all they've got up on their websites for pre-order. So I think that's kind of how I missed it on the list for this week. But I've long considered this one of the more significant albums of the middle part of the 90s. That's really why I thought I really should add it onto the video for this week. The album was alternative rock, it was grunge, it was metal, it was pop, it was art rock. It was all rolled in to this big album. And I think it was easily one of the more ambitious albums of the decade. But my issue with this box set is the price, because for $345, it's a lot of money, considering you could find the standard 4 LP release of this for half the price. And, the album is just 28 tracks across 4 LPs. And what you're getting in this super deluxe edition is just that album plus 2 LPs of a bunch of live material spread out from across the 1996 tour. Yes, you are getting over 80 minutes worth of unreleased material, but it's all live material. There is no extra studio tracks from the recording sessions of that album, which for me is a big thing. And I think had we been getting extra tracks, extra material, extra studio songs that weren't included on the album, I think I would have been more likely to spend that kind of money for that album. But there is some other stuff included in there. I do love the alternate artwork for this album, but there's also a hardbound book in there. There's tarot cards, there's lithographs. It all comes housed in this really nice deluxe slipcase. It does come with a cloth carrying bag, which I don't really know the point of the bag. But I've said ever since this box set was announced a while back that if I can grab this on sale somewhere, I'm not sure how many copies of this are processing, but if I can get this on sale somewhere for about $100 cheaper than what they're asking for, I will definitely grab a copy of it. It is one of my favorite albums of the 90s. Just, $350 is a steep price for me. But I do know a lot of people that are excited for this release. It was a huge album. I mean, they went on to get nominated for 7 Grammy Awards off of this one. And even though I think the Smashing Pumpkins had better albums in their career, I think it was really Melancholy that really cemented the band as one of the biggest bands of the decade. All right, time to get back to editing the rest of this video. Something I honestly never thought I'd see get reissued is getting reissued this week. This is Guns N' Roses Live Era 87 to 93. Came out back in 1999. It's a 4 LP live album box set. It's going to run about $80. It's been bootlegged a bunch of times over the years, but this is the first time it's been available on vinyl since it was first released back in 99. It's all newly remastered from the original analog tapes. It's got updated artwork, and it comes in 2 gatefold sleeves that comes housed in a nice big slip case. So the packaging is a lot different than any of the bootlegs from over the years or the original pressing of this album. It's the band's only standalone live album, and I know it says 87 to 93 and is recorded over a lot of those dates across those years. This is mainly, or majority of this is from the Use Your Illusion tour, so it's basically 91 to 93. So it's all taken from basically the peak of their career. And according to people that worked on this album, there are very few overdubs on this album. So with a lot of live albums out there, even though they're live albums, there's a lot of overdubs. There's a lot of studio stuff that's on those albums. The band will go in the studio and re-record guitar parts. They'll re-record vocals and kind of touch up the album, where it sounds like there are very few of those on this album. Basically, it just kind of fixes here or there across the album. A majority of what you're hearing on here is, straight from those live recordings. It's one I've wanted on vinyl for a really long time. I've almost dropped quite a bit of money on the original pressing of this. I'm glad I waited until this got reissued. The track listing has always kind of been strange to me, though, because it's missing some really big tracks that the band played on a lot of those concerts. But for some reason, the band decided to leave them off of this live album. Take a song like A Civil War, which I'm sure was played almost every single night of the Use Your Illusion tour, but it's not on the on this album. It's songs like that that's kind of it makes me kind of scratch my head why they were left off of this album. That's one that I'm glad to finally just have a copy of it on vinyl. So that one's coming out this week. The new album's got Prince and the Revolution, Around the World in a Day, released in 1985, 7th studio album. It's going to be on blue marble vinyl. So there's a couple different versions. So the single LP version of it, it's going to be on blue marble vinyl. It's going to run about $27. And then there's a big 3 LP release of this. It's going to run about $48. It's all newly remastered by Bernie Grumman and Chris James. So I'm sure this is going to be a beautiful sounding copy of this album. But unfortunately, this is the album that had to follow up Purple Rain. And I think because of that, this album has never been given the proper respect that I think it really deserves. I mean, Prince could have easily just done Purple Rain 2.0, but he wanted to do something different. And he wanted to be more experimental with that next album. And I give him a lot of credit for it because I think a lot of artists probably wouldn't have done that. I think the end result ended up being, in my opinion, probably one of his most complete albums. Sure, it didn't sell the 25 million copies that Purple Rain did, but, it still hit number one on the Billboard 200. It still sold, over 5 million copies. In the mainstream, it's not held up like Purple Rain is, but I think it definitely deserves to be in that conversation as one of Prince's best albums. So on this 3 LP version that's coming out, there is 2 LPs of B-sides, the bonus tracks. Looks like it's all like extended and alternate mixes. There's some singles versions on there. So you're getting some extra content in that 3 LP release. For like $48, I don't think it's a bad price for that one. Something else that's long overdue to get reissued. I don't think this one's been released on vinyl since 1991. This is the Descendents, I Don't Want to Grow Up, released in 1985. It was their second studio album. It's going to be on yellow vinyl. It's going to about $31. It was released 3 years after their iconic debut album, My Logo Goes to College, and it was the first of 2 albums that the band would record with the guitarist Ray Cooper. It featured a little more of a melodic style, and this album in particular would go on to become a very influential album to a lot of those pop-punk bands in the 90s. And yes, Milo Goes to College is also very influential. I think specifically this album really became the blueprint for a lot of what bands like Green Day would do in the 90s. Like I said, it's another album that has not been available on vinyl in a very, very long time. I've already got that one on pre-order also. It's definitely another one that I'm looking forward to grabbing this week. Like I said, it's gonna be a very, very expensive week for me this week. So you got that coming out. Then you've also got Def Leppard, Diamond Star Heroes, live from Sheffield, coming out. So this new live album from the band. It's going to run about $51. It's going to be on 2 LPs. It's going to be on red and white splatter vinyl. This was recorded in May 2023. 47 years after the start of the band, Def Leppard returned home to Sheffield, England, to perform in front of a sold-out crowd of almost 40,000 people. The performance was essentially a greatest hits concert, but they also included some of their best tracks from those post-Hysteria albums. The performance also included the song This Guitar, which is off of their latest album, Diamond Star Halos. It was dedicated to the band's late guitarist Steve Clark, who unfortunately died after the release of Hysteria. And I've long said, in my mind, the way I kind of look at it is, that classic period from Def Leppard were those Steve Clark years, from the founding of the band on through the night, through Hysteria. And then after his passing, the band really kind of lost something musically. And I think they kind of lost some of that harder edge. Yes, Vivian Campbell stepped in and replaced him, and Vivian Campbell did a lot of really good stuff with Dio. He was on Holy Diver. He played that harder edge before, but it just wasn't the same without Steve Clark of the band. There's also the Best of Creed coming out this week. This is a new career-spanning greatest hits compilation. It's going to run you about $24. And no, it's not a blank album. It's got 12 of the band's best-known songs from across their career. It's all newly remastered. I know a lot of people love to hate on Creed, and I understand some of the criticisms, but I think they still did have some really good songs and do have some really good songs. So they did previously release a greatest hits compilation it's probably about 20 years ago when the greatest hits compilation came out. My thing is, when that came out, it was edited. The songs were edited. There's lyrics missing on that album. And at first I thought it was like a Walmart situation where Walmart didn't want to sell it with, curse words on it. So the album was edited. But I think it was actually something from the band and from the label, because that's how it was sold everywhere. And I think if you go on streaming services, it's even edited on there. So I'm interested to see if this is going to be the same way and if those same songs are edited on this new version. Because the way I've always looked at music is it should not be edited. Regardless of what it is, it shouldn't be edited. I don't care if it's on the radio or where it is. Music should be music. If that's how it should be released, if that's how it was recorded, that's how it should be released. So I'll be interested to see how this one is when it gets released. But, as far as Creed goes, I think they were one of those bands that, got popular as music was changing. Rock music was getting very homogenized, and I think Creed kind of took a lot of the blame wrongly for what was going on in rock music. But if you're one of those people that say, I like Creed, but I hate Scott Stapp, go check out Alter Bridge, because Alter Bridge is Creed without Scott Stapp and just Miles Kennedy on vocals and a little bit of a harder edge to it. And, I think Alter Bridge is one of those bands that has never really got the popularity that I think they probably deserve. But I think actually Alter Bridge is working on a new album, and Creed is, I think, also working on a new album. So I'm not sure how that's working in studio. So that's coming out this week. Then you also got a reissue of See You on the Other Side by Korn coming out, released back in 2005. It was their 7th studio album. 2 LP release is the 20th anniversary edition. It's going about $33. Musically, it was a different kind of album for Korn, because This is the album after founding guitarist Ted left the band. I think because of that, they decided to experiment with more of their sound than they had really on any album before. And it ended up being this really interesting balance between the heaviness that Korn is known for and this more interesting poppiness that Korn really hadn't had on any of their other albums. It's definitely a different kind of album for Korn, to go back and listen to. It was met with some pretty mixed reviews, but commercially it still sold pretty well. It hit number 4 on the Billboard 200. It still sold over 1 million copies here in the U.S. If all you know from Korn is just those first few albums from the band, this is definitely one to go back through and check out. There's also a 20th anniversary edition of Aqualung Live by Jethro Tull coming out this week. Released back in 2005, it's going to run about $25. So this is all recorded live in studio in Washington, D.C. It's all part of Sirius XM Radio's Then Again Live series. So this is going to be the first time this album is available on vinyl as a gatefold release. And I know at one point in time, I think it was like if you went and saw Jethro Tull live in 2005, they're actually giving this out on CD as part of if you bought a ticket, it came along with the ticket. It does say this is all newly remastered, but I couldn't see anywhere who remastered this. I didn't see anything on Jethro Tull's website. I looked around on websites that are selling this in the UK. I know Burning Shed is one of the websites that Jethro Tull uses a lot, that their label uses. I didn't see anything on there who remastered this. I know Steven Wilson has been remixing and remastering a lot of their albums over the last decade plus. And I know Steven Wilson didn't remix and remaster this because it would have Steven Wilson's name on the front of it. So I know he didn't do the remaster on this. So I wonder if this is just something that the band themselves remastered or one of their former engineers remastered for this. I think what's so difficult about an album like this is you take such an iconic album like Aqualung and you're trying to record a live version of it. 30 plus years after you recorded the studio version, you're always going to compare this version to the original. And regardless of the quality of the live version, it's never quite going to match what you did originally. I know it's also going to be available on CD and streaming services this week, so I'm not going to order a copy of it. Like I said, I've got a lot of really expensive stuff coming this week, so I'll at least stream this one and check it out this week. Then you got a lot of really cool jazz stuff that's coming out this week. The first one is Coleman Hawkins and Confreres. So this came out back in 1958. This is part of the Verve Acoustic Sound series. These are always mastered from the original analog tapes. They're pressed at QRP. The whole process is overseen by Chad Casson from Acoustic Sounds. It's going about $39. It's a little bit different of a jazz album because it has this more like relaxed atmosphere across the album. And I think doing an album like that really allowed each artist, each musician on this album, the time to really explore themselves musically on these songs. And it ended up resulting in some really brilliant solos across all the tracks on this album. I think all 5 of the tracks on this album are really good, but I think Maria and Sunday, are the 2 standout tracks on here. Like I said, all 5 of them are good, but I think Head and Shoulders, those 2 stand out above the rest. And it's kind of interesting to listen to this album because at this point in Coleman's career, he was very late into his career at this point, and it showed that even at this point in his career, he was still able to adapt to newer jazz trends. And the way he blended with so many different musicians on this album, I think really showed, the true talent that Coleman had. Now, granted, he is joined by some great musicians on here. He's got Ben Webster on here, Oscar Peterson, Herb Ellis, Ray Brown. He's got Hank Jones on here, Roy Eldridge. He is joined by some great musicians that really help him along the way. And it's an album that, $40 is a lot to drop an album. I get that. But this is, a truly great jazz album. There's also a couple releases coming out this week from the Craft Recordings, the original Jazz Classic series. These are always mastered by Kevin Gray from the original analog tapes. They're pressed to RTI. They always sound absolutely fantastic. The first one was Sonny Rollins +4, released back in 1956. It's going to run about $39. So Sonny started working on a couple of these songs while he was still playing in the Max Roach Clifford Brown Quintet, which he had just joined a couple of months before recording this album. And the move that was pretty unusual at that time, Sonny would utilize the band he was actually in to record his own album. So joining Sonny on this album, you've got Clifford Brown, Max Roach, Richie Powell, George Morrow, and this is actually supposed to be a series of albums that they were going to release over the next couple of years. So unfortunately, just 3 months after recording this album, both Richie Powell and Clifford Brown will both die in a car accident, which put a halt to that entire plan. So, it's really unfortunate we didn't see more from this group of musicians because this is a really good jazz album. I think Sonny would go on to release even better albums after this, but I still think it's worth one that's at least worth checking out. So you got that coming out this week. Then you've also got Wes Montgomery, Boss Guitar, released back in 1963. It's all the same stuff. It's all mastered by Kevin Gray. It's pressed to RTI. It's going to run you about $39. He would record Boss Guitar in a very busy year. Just a couple of days before he recorded this album, he recorded the album Fusion, which is another incredible jazz album. And then later that fall, he would record Portrait of Wes, which I don't think ended up getting released until like 66, which were all released through Riverside. And actually, if you want to dig even more into Wes's career, in 1992, there was a big 12 CD box set that was released, which are all the recordings he did for Riverside, including this album. It also has Portrait of Wes in there, also has Fusion. It's also got a lot of other great stuff he did for the label. It was everything he recorded for Riverside between, I think it was 59 and 63 he recorded for them, which is all before he moved on to Verve. And musically, it's more of a simplified kind of jazz album, because it's just Wes on guitar, and then he's joined by Melvin Ryan on organ. He's got Jimmy Cobb on drums. I think it's definitely one of the standout albums that Wes would ever record. And then the last two albums I got on my list are both part of the Blue Note Classic series. These are both mastered by Kevin Gray from the original analog tapes. They're pressed at optimal. I just want to say, I don't know how Kevin Gray finds time to master all these albums. But I will say, whenever I see Kevin Gray's name attached to an album, I always know it's going to sound really good. So the first one I got is Jackie McLean, One Step Beyond, released back in 1964. This one's going to run about $28. So while this album is still rooted in his normal like hard bop style, this is much more of like an avant-garde style album from Jackie. This was Jackie's first album recording with Bobby Hutcherson on vibraphone, and I think that change probably prompted some of that more exploration musically on this album. It's definitely a lot more experimental and adventurous than what Jackie had done previously. And the end result ended up being closer to a lot of the other like free jazz from the middle part of the 60s than really what Jackie had really been known for. And also making appearances on this album, you got Gratian Moncour, you got Eddie Kahn, a very young but still very talented Tony Williams on drums. Jackie's one of those jazz musicians that I've gotten more into over probably, I'd say, the last year or two. That's one I won't pick up this week, but I'll put on my list to maybe pick up at a later date, or maybe some of those holiday sales have it included at a later point in the year. Maybe I'll grab a copy of it then. So you got that coming out, and the last album I got on my list is Andrew Hill, Judgement. Came out back in 1964. It's all the same stuff. It's all mastered by Kevin Gray. It's pressed to optimal. It's going to run you about $28. So this is one of 4 great albums that he would record over a really short period of time. It's like late 63 to very early 64. Both Blackfire and Pointed Departure are also classic albums also. But Judgement in particular would go on to become one of those cornerstone avant-garde jazz albums in the middle part of the 60s. Yes, there were other really good avant-garde albums that were coming out around the same period of time, but I think the musical complexity of this album in particular is really what helped it rise above all the other ones that were being released. He's joined on here by Bobby Hutcherson, Elvin Jones, Richard Davis. If you're an avant-garde, if you're a free jazz kind of fan, this is definitely another one we're checking out. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. Like I said, it's going to be an expensive week for me. I've already got that Beatles Anthology on pre-order. I've got that Yungblud and Aerosmith one more time on pre-order. Actually, technically, I don't. My wife has it on pre-order. I've already got that Guns N' Roses on pre-order. I've got some question marks next to some other ones. We'll see. We'll see what I end up grabbing this week. But let me know what you guys are looking forward to. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.